listeners that the views and opinions on the show are those of the host and guests and not necessarily the opinions of the owners of Global Communications Network and the operators of
Today can be the turning point in your life by making a simple decision.
Fundamental questions of navigation. Where am I? Where am I going? And how do I get there from here?
I invite the leaders of our planet to ask themselves these three questions before they make any crucial decisions.
But if you don't make decisions, you're going to stay right where you are.
We are all map makers.
We are in a time of transition.
If we're going to change, we have to change the direction that we're going.
Our planet needs leaders who know where they want to go.
When we change the direction we're going, then we want to make sure we're going in the right direction.
Leaders who can see the big picture.
Because if we're not, we're going to either go backwards or we're going to stay where we are.
Recognizing the psychological and the spiritual shifts and changes that need to be made, often from the inside to the outside.
To be able to shape your future, you have to be willing and able to change your paradigm.
Complex journeys require navigation. The path to the truth is one such journey. This is your GPS. Hairstyling services provided by J.D. Edwards Salon and Spa, Palmdale Shopping Plaza, Madera Street. Accessories provided by Chevette Williamson Jewelry. Standout jewelry for standout women. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to GPS, Global Paradigm Shift on Global 99.5 FM. I am your host, Michelle Malcolm, and as always, it's a pleasure to be in your company today. Thank you so much for tuning in and making GPS a part of your afternoon. So today's show is going to be one that is going to stretch you as it relates to your willingness and ability to think beyond what you see. This is one of those shows that is going to require you to pull out not your snorkeling gear, but your scuba diving gear, because we're going to go a little deep today. And we're going to be dealing with this whole FTX continuing saga, but not from the perspective that you will necessarily expect. We're going to be going beyond the surface today as to what really happened with FTX and what does it mean from a global perspective. It seems that this is the gift that keeps on giving for those of us who are in the broadcasting business. It just never stops. Every day is something new. If you are a person who thinks beyond what you necessarily see, there are many, many questions that remain unanswered as it relates to this whole saga of FTX. And I, for one, smell a rat. But by the end of this show, you will perhaps, like I am, be asking the question, is Sam Bankman-Fried the rat? Or is he simply working on behalf of the rat? There's definitely a rat. But who's the rat? We're going to go deep today, y'all. This is something that, like I told y'all, every now and again, you know me, I got to come from left field, right? Because I don't believe, as a journalist who's been in this business now for, almost going on 20 years. I can't say that too loud. I've been trained to look beyond the surface, ask the tough questions, and follow the truth wherever it may lead you. And that's what we're going to be doing on this show today. I am being joined today by some special guests who are going to help us to look at this thing with open eyes. One of them is, I see he has on his name Dr. Cassius. Now, I don't know when he got the doctorate and didn't tell me.
I just feel like being mischievous today. That's all.
I'm not going to ask him what he's a doctor of.
Can I be mischievous today?
Well, I can leave that one right there.
Yeah, leave that one right there.
Dr. Cassius Stewart. Once
Always a
again,
pleasure, Michelle. Always a pleasure.
and I know that our other guest is going to be coming in studio. He's called already. He's running a little late, but he will be joining us momentarily. And we're going to have a very good conversation today, Cassius, because you know me, I sometimes come from a little, I ask the questions, but I don't hear too many people asking. When it comes to this whole fallout of FTX, clearly I smell a rat. But everybody looking at Sam Bankman-Fried as the rat. And I am going to put some information before you today that's going to make you question whether you ain't looking deep enough to find out who is the real rat here. So let's set the stage. Everybody by now, unless you live under a rock, you've heard of Sam Bankman-Fried, the gentleman behind FTX, who burst into the crypto scene in 2019, and within 2 years, amassed a fortune of billions of dollars. And from all intents and purposes, he seemed on the surface to be, you know, an answer to prayer for many, very, very generous with the billions of dollars that he was able to amass over such a short period of time. So much so that he started to receive attention as the generous billionaire. I'm going to go and play a clip just so you can get an idea of how he burst onto the scene and the image that he created as the generous billionaire.
I found the most generous billionaire in the world. This guy looks homeless, but he actually lives in the Bahamas with 10 roommates. He's only 30 years old, but he has $22 billion. And he wants to donate all of it to charity. Here is why. Ever since Sam was a little kid, he wanted to get rich. Like really, really rich. But not to buy a Ferrari.
I wanted to get rich not because I like money, but because I wanted to give that money to charity.
So after graduating from MIT, he went on a mission to become a billionaire. One day he noticed that the price of Bitcoin in the US was different from the price of Bitcoin in Japan. So he started selling American Bitcoin to the Japanese and made millions of dollars.
So, you know, Bitcoin is trading at $10,000 on a US exchange, $11,000 on a Japanese exchange. You take $10 million, you buy at $10,000, you sell at $11,000, you make $1 million, and we were able to do that every weekday.
From this simple idea, Sam made $20 million. He became a crypto trader full-time and started his own company. In just 2 years, his company became one of the biggest in the world, worth over $40 billion. But Sam is not your regular billionaire. He believes that all the money you make, you should give. He believes every human being should make as much money as possible just to give it all away. Last year, Sam donated $50 million, and next year, he's planning to give $500 million.
The amount of good that you can do for the future of the world is really large, and it's way more than you can do to actually make yourself happy with anything like that amount of money.
With his money, he's fighting global warming.
It's one of the biggest problems that we have to tackle together as a world.
COVID-19.
We have to be ready for the next pandemic.
Tropical diseases that nobody talks about.
More than 1 billion people suffer from them. We have to eliminate these diseases.
And animal welfare.
Animals deserve to live just like we do. It's also why I'm vegan.
Sam has no Lamborghini and no Rolex. In fact, his car is a Toyota Corolla.
Try to think about what are the most important problems facing the world today, and what can you do to help make those as much better as possible.
Sam's story reminds us that making money is not a bad thing, as long as you use that money to make the world a better place.
All right. So on the surface, that all sounds and looks really good. Sam came to the Bahamas and he continued his philanthropic ways, donating lots of money to lots of NGOs and charities and UB and the police force, and I mean all kind of people was benefiting, Cassius, from his generosity, and everybody thought, wow, the Bahamas is so fortunate that he has chosen us to be the place where he has headquarters for a part of his business. Now, that video talked about how he drove a Toyota Corolla. And Jason, this next clip I'm going to play has no audio, so leave my microphone open and Cassius' microphone open. So, it talked about how he drives Toyota Corolla and, he wants to give away everything. But since this fallout has happened, we see where he didn't quite give away everything. The images for our Facebook audience that you're looking at are from the condominium where he and his inner circle lived as roommates out there in Albany. That has since gone on sale for just under $40 million. And as those of you who are watching via Facebook can see, we're talking a nice little pad here. Now, I'm not hating on the boy. You worth billions. You should be living soft. And clearly, they were living soft. But none of this really came out until we saw the whole thing fall apart. And people then started to pay attention, or closer attention, I should say, to what was this young man doing? How did he amass such a humongous fortune in just 2 years' time? And how was he able to convince some of the world's biggest players in the financial sector to invest money into his company? 2 years. 2019, 2020, 21, 22. Okay, so from 2019 is when the company started, right? It's now 2022. Billions of dollars in that short space of time, with major players putting major amounts of money, large sums of money in investment into FTX. So how did this young man pull this off? Because now we know that all was not as it seemed. Since the fallout has happened, there's been a lot of investigation into what this young man did to amass his fortune, how he lived, etc. I saw one article say that who knew that FTX was being run by a bunch of kids who were roommates and dating each other? But all the business coming out now, and he is under a lot of scrutiny now. Just recently, Forbes magazine put out an article that described him as the devil in nerd's clothing. And here is, as my in-studio guest arrives, I'm going to play this clip to give him an opportunity to get settled in. Here is a clip from an interview that was done by the lead person writing that Forbes article about what they discovered about Mr. Bankman-Fried. Here we go.
Hi, everyone. I'm Diane Brady. I am here with David Deans, who is a senior writer on the tech team doing investigations. Just did a terrific piece, of course, on Sam Bankman-Fried. David, welcome.
Hi, Diane. Thanks for having me.
Tell us a bit more about what you found.
So just like the rest of the world, especially the crypto and tech ecosystems, with my colleagues Sarah, Emerson, and other members of the tech team, we were able to take a look at what has happened in the past week, and it's been chaos, to put it bluntly. Trying to understand exactly how a company, the second largest crypto exchange in the world, has become insolvent and filed for bankruptcy in the space of a week, has been a great challenge. But we've been making efforts to speak to as many sources as possible, and that resulted in our story that we published on Saturday. Last week was rather startling for anyone in the crypto world and the tech sector more broadly. Like many others, myself and my colleagues were looking at what was happening with FTX and Sam Bankman-Fried last week, and it just felt like one headline after another that was coming out to show that this company was effectively imploding. And we started to make a lot of calls to people who were at Alameda Research, which was the hedge fund trading arm of FTX. And we first focused there to see what we could find out about what may have triggered the events that occurred last week. As a result of all the work we were doing last week, we started speaking to a number of folks who worked shoulder to shoulder with Sam Bankman-Fried over the years, and also his other executives. And what emerged was that there was a number of red flags, actually, that many people, including the people who often we look up to as including investors, were all rather duped by some of the things that Sam had done over the years. I think this is a really clear case of investors being terrified of FOMO, fear of missing out. And we've seen that happen before with other, tech implosions. We could start talking about Theranos, for example. A lot of people threw a lot of money at that company without doing the due diligence that was necessary to find out, whether it was a legitimate firm. And it appears that the same thing has happened here with FTX, where, today there was a former SoftBank executive was talking about the fact that he was reflecting on the fact that, yes, he was among many that were caught up in FOMO. And that was because there was an idea about FTX that it was the next big thing, and that it was successfully raising billions of dollars from all of these rather, smart, intelligent, qualified investors. And so once you start seeing big name brands like Sequoia, SoftBank, and Temasek and Tiger jumping into these rounds, it's like, well, we've all got to get in. But what happened that Sam Bankman-Fried did successfully was he created a fear among investors that if they questioned him too much, then he would ice them out of further and future funding rounds. He was able to build a company worth $32 billion without ever having a board that had any investors on it. And there was an advisory board, which some investors pointed to that they were involved in, but it had no, clear oversight of the company. And this is kind of unheard of, really, among a lot of companies that try and raise money. They have to have boards. Investors have to see into the company, and they have to know what's going on. And that just was not the case here. And there was one investor who told us, in our story that we reported on Saturday, was that they looked at the financial sheets, they looked at the balance sheet, they looked at the financials, and they all appeared to be great. I mean, the company was generating revenue. There was one interview that he gave that we focused on in our story, which we just thought was incredibly illustrative. And it was a conversation he had with Bloomberg's Matt Levine, where he was trying to describe yield farming, and it was a rather sort of chaotic, convoluted way of describing it. But then he provided a metaphor of how his company, Alameda Research, had effectively, it was a metaphorical black box that just kept providing crypto yields, and it just kept making money. But there was nothing in the box. All that mattered was that it kept making money. And when Matt Levine pointed out that maybe, does this mean that you're in the Ponzi business? There was another interaction before Sam Bankman-Fried actually said, I think that's a reasonable, understanding. And he did not disagree. And so maybe we're like putting a lot of attention on a singular interaction, but it is a telling response. I'd say that right now, Sam Bankman-Fried fits the mold of a person who everyone wants to believe in, and that image that is projected is something that a lot of people want to buy into because they feel like they when they give money to something like this are being part of something that is going to become something great. And I've seen this before with people who I've previously written about who have been accused of fraud or who have been, done some funky economics at their companies that have led to disaster. They all are incredibly likable and incredibly charismatic people, and they have their own sort of quirks and nuances that makes you be drawn to them more. And of all the people who I've covered in this space, Sam seems to be the largest character of this mold, where he's raised the most amount of money. He was acquired the most amount of belief from the communities that he has built. And right now, it appears that it's anyone's guess to see where this goes next.
All right, so we're being joined now by Tennille Desmangles. Did I get that right? All right. Who served in the capacity of business risk manager within the private banking sector. And prior to this, he operated in the capacity of group internal auditor within Financial Group and previously operated as a senior auditor and consultant within public accounting, performing financial statement audits, internal audits, compliance. He's a certified information system auditor, certified in risk and information system control, certified anti-money laundering specialist, certified fraud examiner. Boy, there's a lot of certifications. Certified internal control architect, certified internal control risk analyst, lead implementer, and lead auditor to the ISO 31027,001 standard. He also serves as crypto researcher, market analyst, trainer. I instead of Cassius having doctor in front of his name, maybe you should have doctor in front of yours. Welcome to GPS.
Give him doctor.
Okay, guys, we heard what was said in that last clip, that this guy was just really charismatic. Yes. But now I want to ask you all this. He was able to get 10% of the world's GDP in value invested in his company.
Yes.
That's a lot of charisma.
That's a whole lot of charisma.
So is it only his charismatic nature, or is something else going on here? What are your thoughts?
Well, for me, I think
and lean into that microphone for me.
Yeah. For me, I think that it's twofold. I think that not limiting to the financial service sector. I think as we see through other areas, being charismatic, being able to lead by influence is very critical. And having such ability, you're able to garner trust. You're able to, I don't want to say coerce, but convince individuals actually to in fact support your cause. And I think that was something that Sam was very good at, taking no knocks to his intellectual capital in the least. But being charismatic was how we got away with it.
With all due respect, he's not the charismatic person to walk the face of the earth.
No.
He's not the first intelligent person to walk the face of the earth. He's not the first person who has that unique combination, as well as understanding of the crypto market.
Yes.
So what is it about this young man and this company, and this is really where the core of the show is going to go today.
Tell me.
What is it about this particular young man and his company that was able to get so many reputable individuals and companies to jump on this bandwagon? It gotta be more than you telling me he had a lot of charisma.
Yeah, but you know what also was something that assisted with the fallout certainly is that you can be charismatic, but I think that he was very philanthropic as well. So at the end, it was so difficult to not like Sam Friedman, because when you think about giving back to numerous charitable organizations globally, as well as now being other follows within the crypto space, he became the darling of the industry, so to speak. And it was very difficult to go against Sam because it appeared like he was doing so many things right.
Cassius, what are your thoughts on this?
You know, one of the things I've learned that when the world looks at young people, they automatically assume that young people are dumb, that young people don't have the capacity to think, that young people don't have the capacity to create, that we have to be old to be smart. Yeah, he was charismatic, but the man was damn smart. You got to give him that. He was a graduate from MIT, and to go to MIT, you know you got to be sharp. And, just like America is famous for destroying people who are on their way down, they will find everything to demonize him. And he is this, and oh, he's that, oh, he had no board. It wasn't a damn problem when he had the money. Why all of a sudden now that he ain't got it is a problem? And so, we reached a stage where, we got to be careful with American media. They love to demonize and destroy people. They would praise you when you're on the top, but when you're coming down, they will destroy you and every piece of you. Looking at Sam, I say to him as a young man, listen, and if I were to invest, if he have any other business in the future, I would be glad to invest because if any young person can create that type of market capitalization within 2 years, he's a damn smart man. It didn't work. It fell down. JC Penney's had the very same problem. JC Penney's collapsed. He rebound and start again. You had, 4 years ago when Obama bailed out the automobile industry, Ford and Chevy and GM and all them, they were all at the brink of where he's at now. And so, but they were bailed out. This guy didn't get a bailed out, but now all of a sudden now he's the demon, he's the this and he's the that. And I don't think it's fair because one, he represents a total generation, a new generation of thinkers. And yes, it did not work out, but that doesn't stop him from recreating it again. But I think we got to be careful how we shape the conversation. One, he did not do anything wrong by creating his business. He started a legitimate business. He was smart enough to be one of the ones out there who doing the things that we wouldn't even think about doing. And because he did that, he put himself in the position to become a billionaire. Yes. But, we are so quick to bash and beat because he did not fail. I mean, I understand that victory has many fathers and defeat is an orphan. That means, yeah, everybody loves you because you're doing good, but when you're doing bad, ain't nobody will be around you. I understand that. But we have to be careful how we begin to shape the conversation because you have two young people on your show now who are basically in that same space. If today or tomorrow we do well and we fall, do you demonize us? You understand? And so we got to be very careful. Sam did not do anything wrong. He had a management deficiency that perhaps they may have overlooked. Yes, they needed a proper board of directors. Yes, they needed to get these things. Yes, they needed more filterization of their processes and their management practices. But, that was a management fault. He didn't do anything illegal per se. And so we got to be careful. So I just say he's a smart man.
But he himself admitted in the Bloomberg interview that he did that in essence what he was doing was a Ponzi scheme. He didn't say it in so many words, but
did he use that term though? Because they were leveraging and hedging. People do that all the time. You hedge your bets on future incomes, and so you hope that the market will perform a certain way, and so you perhaps borrow against those unrealized revenue and so on. People do it all the time, and so we do it all the time in stocks. We do it all the time in securities. We do it in futures. People hedge their bet on gold, on oil, and futures, on grain, and so on. And so, I mean, I've lost lots of money in the stock market, but I've been hedging. And so, but we got to be careful though. We paint the picture as if he was in this illegal scam. Cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, blockchains, they are not illegal. That is totally legal. That is the new currency, and that is where the world is going. We're having some hiccups as we now go into that, but we got to be careful how we paint the picture. And I think we're painting the wrong picture because American media love to destroy you, and they're painting the picture as if he was evil and this and that. And also to remember now, there's always been a war between the legitimate banking sector and the blockchain and the crypto sector. They don't want the crypto sector because they don't want no regulation. Crypto does not want regulation, but the banking sector wants them to be regulated. And so,
you jumping ahead of me now because I'm definitely going to go there in this show.
Yeah,
we have a call on line. Caller, welcome to GPS.
Good afternoon. How you doing?
Excellent. How are you?
I'm good. I totally agree with the point that Cassius made as relates to all of us who invest. From time to time, we end up in some bad situation, and we end up like failing at one point in time, and then we wash ourselves, we get back up, and we go at it again. As a matter of fact, when you look at Atlantis, one of the biggest mega in our country, when he went and built a hotel in Dubai, he used the SP from Atlantis in the Bahamas and built Atlantis in Dubai, and because of the recession, that fall through in cost now that Springfield to take his Atlantis here in the Bahamas. So this happened to all around. This is nothing new that he did. And like Cassius said, he did not do anything wrong. This market is a market that is not as heavily regulated as other markets, so he didn't do anything wrong. And I totally agree with Cassius.
All right, thank you so much for calling.
Okay.
There are some who may disagree with you guys. Go ahead, Neil, you wanted to join in?
Yeah, sure. So Cassius, good point that you made. Certainly, I can say that I'm also a proponent of the industry. I believe that Sam was an intelligent guy. I can't take that away from him by any means. But what I think is necessary certainly is more stringent regulation. I think that the decentralized space is one that's here to stay because, I think that people trace and they track cryptocurrencies and the nations thereof. But it's a bigger picture. What it is, it's about the underlying technology that in fact underpins this ecosystem. It's not a crypto thing, it's a blockchain thing. And I think that blockchain is here to stay. And obviously, cryptocurrencies, CBDCs, central bank-backed digital currency, we see governments across the globe rolling these things out, eyeing financial inclusion. Certainly the speed of settlement for these, in fact, assets. I think it's a no-brainer that this is the way of the future. I agree with you wholeheartedly, but for me, I think that the rule book needs to be a bit strengthened.
All right, we have another on the line, and trust me, I'm going to take this show in a direction that is going to hopefully cause everybody around the table and those listening to look at this from another angle completely. But caller, welcome to the show.
Good day, Michelle. How you doing?
Excellent.
How
are you?
Pretty good. I didn't get the name of your second guest.
Daniil Desmangles.
Okay, indeed. Good afternoon, gentlemen. How y'all doing today?
Good. You got the name of the first guest?
Pardon?
You got
Everybody
the name
know
of the
you,
first guest?
Cassius. Stop it.
The question I'd like to ask, and before I do, let me just say, I haven't really deeply been following this thing deeply, just on the surface. But the question that I'd like for someone to answer for me, please, is what did Frank do to cause his company to implode? I haven't heard that put in a nutshell description yet. What
You're
went
going to
wrong?
hear it. You're going to hear it on this show.
I'm listening, Michelle, because that to me is the key thing. I'm hearing everything else going on, and the young man Frank seemed to be.
Sam.
I'm sorry, so I don't know if that's from. Sam seems to be an honest person, but obviously something went wrong somewhere. So I'm really keen on hearing that particular answer. I'll hang up and continue to listen.
All right. Thanks so much for calling, JT. This is a good opportunity for us to take a break. Trust me, you're going to hear it in this show. That and a lot more. And again, my goal here today is not to tell you what to think, but encourage you to think. Look beyond the surface, because I dare say that this goes a lot deeper than Sam Bankman-Fried. And we're going to talk about it on the show today on Global 99.5 FM.
Understanding your microbiome, also known as your gut ecosystem. Understanding your microbiome, also known as your gut ecosystem, can change everything you thought you knew about nutrition, digestion, immunity, and metabolism. Keeping your gut ecosystem healthy and balanced is essential. Ultimate Microbiome by Longevity was specifically formulated to optimize this ecosystem. It provides the advanced support your gut needs through prebiotic, probiotic, and postbiotic supplementation. Our unique blend of probiotics includes Lactobacillus and Plantarum, healthy bacteria that can help prevent harmful bacteria from taking over your gut. Increasing your gut's population of beneficial bacteria creates a more balanced gut microbiome, which has been shown to aid in weight loss, skin health, sleep, mood, and may even help with seasonal allergies. Ultimate Microbiome also promotes the production of postbiotics. Postbiotics are key to help regulate your gastrointestinal health. To enhance digestion, Digizyme Multi-Enzyme Complex, a blend of 5 specific enzymes, has been added to Ultimate Microbiome. It can help break down food so your body can better absorb nutrients. Plus, we've added our proprietary I-26 Hyperimmune Egg Powder to aid in the elimination of disease-causing gut bacteria and help your body balance its immune response. Ultimate Microbiome, the scientific, proprietary, and holistic approach to gut health that helps optimize your body's entire gut ecosystem. To learn more, contact your longevity associate.
Welcome to Sunshine Auto, the hardest place on the planet for rims, tints, and tires.
We are your auto superstore for rims, Lexani, Azaras, Trueform, Western, Lux, Fuel, Tracklight, Tough, Rough Racing, Velocity, Mud, All-Terrain, and low-profile tires, cars, homes, and commercial window tinting. At Sunshine Auto, we put God first and customer is king.
Blessed love.
To stay healthy, it's crucial to make sure you get the nutrition you need every day. But it's difficult to get all your recommended vitamins and minerals from food alone. Even in the United States, 94% of people are deficient in at least one nutrient. Beyond Tangy Tangerine 2.0 by Longevity is a simple, convenient, and affordable way to help your body get the essential nutrients it needs. It's an advanced plant-driven multivitamin mineral complex that contains certified organic whole foods, trace minerals, and antioxidants. BTT 2.0 supports your body's natural defense system with a proprietary blend of energy-boosting and body-loving nutrients, plus prebiotics, probiotics, amino acids, and enzymes that support digestion. With an unusually high ORAC score of 8,000, you get even more antioxidants to help combat free radicals that can cause damage to your cells. But to get the most benefit and value from any multivitamin, your body must be able to break down the nutrients so you can fully absorb them. Otherwise, they'll just pass through your system without doing any good. Beyond Tangy Tangerine 2.0 was specially formulated with synergizing cofactors to ensure you get maximum nutrient absorption. Beyond Tangy Tangerine 2.0 is the easiest way to give your body the balance and complete daily vitamin mineral supplement it needs for optimal support of your overall health. To learn more, contact your longevity associate.
This portion of GPS is brought to you by Tiki Bikini Hut at Junkanoo Beach. Great food, cool tropical drinks, and family fun in the sun. Welcome back to GPS, Global Paradigm Shift on Global 99.5 FM. Michelle Malcolm here in your company, along with my guest today, Dr. Cassius Stewart. and Tennille Desmangles. So Tennille's a newcomer to GPS, and Dr. Cassius Stewart, imposed is here. The telephone numbers to call 326-0271, 326-0271, 326-0272, 326-0272, and the WhatsApp line for text messages only, 801-0271, 801-0271. Now, when things were good, like Cassius pointed out, everybody and their mama was trying to get in the good graces of Sam and his team. We saw all kind of big name athletes like your Tom Brady and your Steph Curry, and we saw, all of these big time companies that are known for being, top of the line in the field of the financial services sector. And we even saw arenas taking on the name of FTX. I mean, everybody was trying to get on the FTX bandwagon. And then when it all came crashing down, everybody running for cover. And others, Bushbrack and mine gone. And others trying to figure out how to get some of my money back. Because a lot of people lost a lot of money in this crash. And in all fairness, this is not the first crypto company to crash. It probably won't be the last, but it is receiving a lot of attention because of the mere size of FTX and how many people invested in this company and how many people have lost billions of dollars. But I want to ask a question, and I'm going to play a clip that will take this in a completely different direction. Is this really just only about a charismatic, smart young man who decided to do some risky business and it all came crashing down? Or is this collapse of FTX much bigger than the individual, Sam Bankman-Fried? Listen to this clip.
He pitched us in that $17 billion round, and I did a Zoom with him. And after the Zoom, I'm like, this doesn't make much sense, but I'll have my team do some work. We did some work, and we sent him a 2-page deck. And we said, here are our recommendations for taking the next step. One was the formation of a board. The second was the creation of dual-class stock. The third was some reps and warranties around affiliated transactions and related party transactions. And the person that worked there called us back and literally, I'm not kidding you, said, go fuck yourself.
The developing story of FTX and Sam Bankman-Fried is playing out like a Netflix documentary, with each day being a new episode in real time. More and more high-level people are sharing their experiences with SBF and looking back for any red flags and what they might have missed. Elon Musk took to Twitter to confirm a story about SBF investing $3 billion into Twitter. Elon said that SBF set off his BS detector. As a guest on the All In podcast, Brian Armstrong also suggested that something was off when he compared Coinbase's revenues to that of FTX, but for whatever reason, SBF had substantially more cash for donations, corporate buyouts, etc., being heralded in the media as the white knight of crypto. In his All-In podcast, Chamath Palihapitiya also shared his own experience with Bankman-Fried, but instead of focusing on SBF, Chamath went deeper into the subject and believes there is a systemic issue at hand that needs to be dealt with immediately.
There was an article that appeared that said that the head of compliance at FTX was also the head of compliance at a poker site called Ultimate Bet, which in the 2010s did this exact thing, apparently. Some version of this where they went in and they looked at hole cards of poker players, and then a few employees inside the business would basically play against these folks, knowing what the hole cards were, ran this cheat, stole millions of dollars. Somehow that person found a way to be head of compliance at FTX.
Yeah.
10 years later. This happens in the public markets a lot as well. So like when you see heavily shorted names, or when you know that certain hedge funds are on the brink, other hedge funds will go in and essentially force a margin call and a stop out, because then it's what causes all of these runs. And if you look actually inside of GameStop, the reason why you got all this gamification in the GameStop equity and a bunch of these other names was in part because of this dynamic. Folks that are highly levered, folks that don't have the right matching of risk. And what happens is they're solvent but illiquid. And then if you run the instrument into the ground, they both become insolvent and illiquid all at the same time. To me, it seems the whole issue, if you come back, like what is the first string that you pulled that unraveled the sweater, was the fact that these tokens were created out of thin air. They had no meaningful value. Somebody prescribed a value, and all of a sudden, everybody else in the economy all of a sudden said, yeah, I'll take that as collateral. Look, you cannot do that in the regular world. I can't call JP Morgan and say, I've invented this thing. It's called a share in XYZ. And I'd like you to margin loan, give me a loan against it. I think the problem is bigger than FTX. And I'll say the uncomfortable part out loud, and nobody needs to necessarily comment if you don't want to. But there were an enormous number of venture firms that talked their way into just completely doing zero work here. I just want to say the second uncomfortable thing out loud, which is there was a lot of venture firms in Silicon Valley in this period of both not doing any work or diligence, who also took the extra step and actually created classes and would teach teams how to create these tokens. And what these folks would do, and we talked about this, the game that they played was they would get a team, they would create a token, they would also buy equity at some crazy valuation. The equity was locked up, but the tokens were not. and then they would put them on an exchange and sell them to unsuspecting people, and they would be able to dump these tokens. And if you look inside of that trend, what you're going to see, and Brian just mentioned this, those were the sale of securities, except it was done in a completely unregulated way. So if the SEC is really, and the DOJ is really going to take this FTT token issue seriously and what happened to FTX, they're going to start to look at a bunch of other tokens and token sales, and you're going to end up looking at some very well-known venture firms inside of Silicon Valley. There's videos today on some of the most well-known venture firm sites on how to do this. And so, I really hope that regulators, not just obviously, I hope that regulators do the best they can to get investors' money back in FTX. But I really also hope they figure out all these other tokens as well, because you can just rank them in terms of market cap, start at the top and work your way down. And you will see that these were unregulated securities, Jason, that were manufactured and sold by our brethren. Citadel does this in the regulated market. That's what payment for order flow is. It's the ability to front run retail volume. And so, in dark pools, that is legal by the law in the United States. And that's what allows Citadel and, I think Jane Street and Susquehanna, all these folks basically run these dark pool exchanges for regulated securities like options and bonds and stocks. And they get this order flow and they front run it by a millisecond, and they just take small vig. I just think that there's these really strict walls and segregation, as you heard Brian talk about, when you have those businesses in these regulated markets. The problem here is that this is totally
Wild West,
unregulated, wild west. So who knows what's going on?
Can you all help us figure out what's going on?
Well, I gotta ask the doctor before the doctor speak.
All right.
Sure. Thank you for that.
And lean the microphone for me. There you go.
Thank you for that, Michael. For me, as the video stated, the thing is that when we hear the comment, printed the tokens out of thin air, right? The process that he's speaking about is minting. And in this minting process, we have to be mindful of the type of token that is being minted. So FTX was under a bit of scrutiny from the SEC as well as the CFTC, the Commodities Future Trading Commission, because they were trying to figure out if this was in fact a security. I could tell you that the argument was that this wasn't a security, but in fact it was a utility token. Now, well, what is a utility token? What is a security token? Well, we're able to differentiate this based on the Howey test. This is a test that's prompted by the SEC, and basically it's that there's an investment in a common enterprise with the expectation of future profit derived from the efforts of others. So basically that's the criteria benchmark against whether this is a security or in fact a utility token. Now that's still up for debate. Many, I think, parties may buy for utility or security token, but the issue with utility tokens, a bit, or a limiting factor, because I wouldn't say it's an issue, is that these utility tokens tend to only operate in a particular ecosystem. Now, the thing was, FTX's ecosystem was so large, use cases found themselves on, well, one, DeFi platforms, found itself in other avenues. And at the end, for me, I think that, well, to say it was printed out of thin air and it didn't have any value, I can say that every asset in this particular space is basically speculative. It's just a matter of hoping Bitcoin or Ethereum gets to $50, $60, $100,000. But at the end, I feel as though these particular assets, their value is still applicable if we have a large ecosystem like FTX, and it allows users to, let's say, get discounts on particular fees or particular service or products within this ecosystem. By and large, that's not something that was wrong. In fact, it was something that the SEC couldn't even, put their finger on. So that was something that I definitely wanted to note. But we do have other assets in the sphere that are in fact backed by an underlying asset. So I think that the whole industry is in dire straits solely because of FTX? No. I think that more or less these markets are just based on market sentiment, market psychology, or simply put, the herd mentality, or the fear of missing out. Go ahead.
Dr. Stewart?
The doctor could let you know that the US dollar ain't backed by nothing itself. So the US dollar is printed in thin air.
Yeah,
You
and
know,
that's true, right? So good point that you made, Cassius. I'll let you go, my brother. I just want to make one point. And the thing about it is, I want people. What I want to say is that what happened to FTX was certainly unfortunate, but the issue at hand is a macroeconomic issue. At the end, we're currently. Some people say we're within it. Some people say that we're about to enter the next Great Recession. We see that the U.S. Federal Reserve, in fact, continues to raise interest rates. This has impacted equities and traditional stocks as we've seen it, as well as the crypto industry as well. To be fair, when I think about cryptocurrency, this is maybe a 20-year-old industry from 2008, not even maybe 15. Comparing this to the stock market, where it's about 1,500 years old, from the Dubai India Company. I think that was the first one that they formed, first stock market. So it's you'll get mixed reviews on this. I understand that there were issues that arose, but I don't think that the whole industry is in distress because of FTX.
You don't think the sky is falling in?
No, not yet.
Yeah,
and I
they
think
being
that
they
we
being
have
they,
just go ahead, Cassius.
they're being a bit disingenuous. Of course, yeah, everything is printed in thin air and oh, it has no value. All because that's what Americans love to do. They love to destroy you when you're down. But just look at their own currency. The Bahamas government have to have. I think we have $700 million in central banks in the U.S. in reserves to prop up our currency. So our dollar is backed by U.S. currency, right? And every third world country, every Caribbean country is required to have monies in a U.S. based central bank or wherever they put it to back up their currency. So to say that FTX is printed on thin air, we could also attribute that to the US dollar, which is printed on thin air. This is why they could go print billions of dollars and send here and send there and send to Ukraine, because they could just print money. Nobody else have that pleasure of printing money whenever they want to. And if they don't be careful, they'll find themselves in the same situation that FTX found themselves in. Because now you have all this money in circulation, and basically, when you put too much in circulation, you lose the value. And so, but FTX is, like I said, it's a learning curve for us as Bahamians. I know that they will have a tug of war with regulations, because one of the issues with the crypto, the bitcoins, and this blockchain is that they try to stay away from all these regulations. And Michelle, you're taking too long to get to the main point. And because
I'm going to get to that right now, actually. But what do you think is the main?
I can give you a stop. Because one of the issues that Sam was doing was sending a lot of monies to this political organization who was trying to regulate
We're going to get
the
there.
industry in his favor.
We're going to get there. It's a 2-hour show, so
hold
I
on.
have to pace. I have to pace.
But
Go ahead.
CZ's decided, they don't want to bother that. So when he decided to pull out and sell his FTX stocks, that was the beginning of the end, because now CZ said, listen, I'm selling all of my FTX coins, and so he bailed out. Other people started
You're
to
getting
bail
ahead
out.
of me, Cassius.
Go on.
You're getting
I
ahead
finished.
of me.
Go on.
This is a
Go
2-hour
on.
show. I've got to pace the show.
I
All
only
right.
got 1 hour.
So, oh, you only have an hour. You didn't tell me that.
Yes.
Okay. Well, all right. Let me play a clip real quick that will hopefully you'll be able to stick around a little bit longer to give us your thoughts on this, because as a journalist, we're taught that when you want to get to the truth of something, you answer some basic questions: who, what, when, where, why, how. So we know the who involved, or do we? In this clip, we are going to set the stage to begin answering the questions that you want me to get to, which is, what was FTX really? Let's go to the next clip.
We have, a few billion on our balance sheet right now. We are profitable.
On the balance sheet of FTX is a line called Trump lose.
I want to be doing something net positive, like with the making money part. I want to be a good actor there.
And Sam was the second biggest donor to Democratic candidates.
We've raised a few $1 billion over the course of the last couple of years, and we're a profitable business. I have a duty as a member of the industry to try and get us regulated, to try and move the industry in a more responsible direction.
I'm going to leave it to everybody else to draw their own conclusions about what you're saying here.
Wow. So much more new information to share with you, including Sam Bankman-Fried's political ties. We have more and more reputable companies cutting their ties with FTX. I have an update on where the money went. This FTX hacker, now one of the largest ETH holders in the world. But like always, right now, let's start at the source. We finally have some answers to what this cryptic tweet thread means. You see, somehow Sam Bankman-Fried has time to do interviews during all this. And the New York Times just released their piece, their puff piece, on how his empire fell. And I do mean puff piece. You see, 0 times in this interview with Sam Bankman-Fried did they ask about fraud, did they ask about crime, or mention the words illiquid, stolen, criminal, hidden, backdoor. Nothing like this was asked of Sam. Yet they did manage to keep us abreast of his sleeping habits. What was discovered was this. What happened? What do these cryptic tweets mean? Well, in this interview, right as it was happening, the New York Times brought it up. Shortly before the interview, Mr. Bankman-Fried had posted a cryptic tweet, the word what, and then he tweeted the letter H. Asked to explain, Mr. Bankman-Fried said he planned to post the letter A, then the letter P. It's going to be more than just one word, he said. I'm making it up as I go. So he was planning a series of cryptic tweets, something like that. But why? I don't know, he said. I'm improvising. I think it's time. So basically saying he's just playing games. He just wants attention. He just wants to put these little cryptic tweets out there and let the masses wonder. But what he was actually doing is far more devious. Why is Sam Bankman-Fried deleting tweets and then tweeting to offset his total tweets count? Sam Bankman-Fried is doing this weird tweet thread so that he can delete old tweets without them being captured by the crypto deleted bot. And you know what? It actually worked. LMAO, that's what he's doing. The bot's out there registering the same amount of tweets per day like nothing changed. This is why the tweets are coming out so irregularly. He's combing through his past tweets searching for incriminating statements and will only tweet the next letter in his fake thread as soon as he finds a tweet that he needs to delete. So my obvious next question is, what has he been deleting? Well, this he deleted. A tweet from him that cited this article from Bitcoin Insider. This article just citing his quote saying FTX is fine, assets are fine, right before they crashed. And it's also notable that he's deleting tweets where he makes claims about Gap and cash on hand. Also, to be fair, the reduction in tweet count has come from other accounts deleting tweets that Sam later retweeted, i.e. from Tom Brady. Tom Brady's tweets right here, Scaramucci's tweets right here. SBF only retweeted them, but they have since then taken those down. And how this affects you is we finally have the answers. SBF finally finished this thread. And then, of course, this clip in full of CEO and founder of Citadel, Ken Griffin, on Bloomberg, calling out Sam Bankman-Fried in a not-so-subtle way. Okay, so after SBF tweeted what and then happened, he finished with, not legal advice, not financial advice. This is all as I remember it, but my memory might be faulty in parts. I'll get to what happened, but for now, let's talk about where we are today. To the best of my knowledge, as a post 11/7, I believe this is the day this all started, so as a debrief, to the best of my knowledge, with the potential for errors, so this is as he remembers it, A, Alameda had more assets than liabilities, M to M, but not liquid. So he's claiming that he had the assets the whole time, they should have never went under. B, Alameda had margin position on FTX International, and C, FTS US had enough to repay all customers. Not everyone necessarily agrees with this. He's basically admitting no fault, claiming it was all a mistake. And then he finishes by saying, my goal, my one goal, is to do right by customers. I'm contributing what I can to doing so. I'm meeting in person with regulators and working with the teams to do what we can for customers. And after that, investors. But first, customers. My goal: A, clean up and focus on transparency. B, make customers whole. And again, how we know that Sam's either delusional or just straight out lying is FTX stole $10 billion of customer deposits. They took loans out against illiquid coins that they knew were illiquid. Now, Visa has since then terminated their debit card program with FTX. The World Economic Forum, of which FTX was a partner, the WEF, has now deleted their page. And then, of course, Ken Griffin, CEO of Citadel, highlighting one of the darkest details of the entire FTX situation. How deep does this rabbit hole go? What was FTX?
We're going to get to that whole revelation by the CEO of Citadel in the next clip as it relates to Sam's political ties with a certain political party in the United States and what that means to this whole question. But seeing that you only given me an hour, Dr. Stewart, what do you say with regard to what we just heard in that clip?
You got the doctor left, so you'll be in good hands. Well, apparently he donated some $33 million to the Democratic Party last run, and I think some $5.4 million to another, whether it's the president campaign, whatever. But that was one of the Achilles heel for CZs when they realized what Sam was trying to do. He talked about being regulated by the industry, and like I said, this industry try as hard as to avoid regulations, because of course the regulations are just going to retard the growth that they thought that they want to have. And of course, big banks don't like the blockchain industry because it bypasses them from getting their little fees on every transaction. And so this whole industry is basically a new form of banking sector that the traditional banking sector do not like, but also the sector itself do not want to be regulated or don't want to get muddy up into politics. And this guy decided he want to jump into the political party, the political ring. And one of the line items on his balance sheet was Trump gone or something like that. Trump lost.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, and hence you cannot have that as a line item on your balance sheet, and so one thing with politics, someone once told me, once you choose your friends, you automatically choose your enemies. And so because he decided to choose his friends, he chose his enemies as well too. And so you don't know whether CZ's was a Republican. You never know. And he pulled out, and once he pulled out, everybody else pulled out. And so you got to, once you're in business, you got to learn how to be straight down the line. He did not understand that. He was putting politics before his business, which was really his Achilles heel in this regard. And so, well, Trump gone and he's gone.
I'm going to let Tennille jump in before I ask the next question, because I want you to stick a pin in the thought that was revealed in that clip, that FTX was a part of the World Economic Forum. That is an important point here. Because I dare suggest that it went even deeper than just political ties. But go ahead, Tennille. Let's hear from you.
Yeah, sure. So, you know what?
Talk closer to the mic.
Sure. So, you know what? For me, I can say that looking at sounds, as we see these clips and we see the videos, to be quite honest with you, I think that I'm a fairly decent judge of character most times. And to be fair, I don't think that when FTX started or commenced its operations, either locally or even at within the US and any other jurisdiction they operate, this entity didn't start to, or it was not intended to be illegitimate. And I think that that's a really big point I want to note, because to be honest with you, I've had my roundabout with, I would say, controls, fraud, money laundering, financial crime. And I can say that, even when something illegitimate takes place, the fraud triangle is based on three elements. It's rationalization, pressure, justification. So at the end of the day, we can see that the element here, not necessarily fraud, because I always say that it's more of an ethics triangle. And pressure sometimes might put someone in a position to do something that they would not otherwise do. The pressure that I'm speaking about, like I said, is just economic pressure. We're currently in a year that we've seen the Ukraine and Russia have what many dub as the next World War III. That's provided ripple effects across every market. We've seen this at the gas pump. We've seen this at the food store. Inflation is here, and that pressure really prompted or put a bit of fire under the feet of the herd as they did their run. Because I feel as though, all things being equal, if we didn't have such significant economic incidents that took place in 2022, I'm not so sure even if this fallout would have taken place or the severity of loss would have been to the magnitude. So for me, I think that it's bigger than FTX. It's an economic thing. We cannot our economic position. But the only thing, as Cassius advises, that regulation is something that's ever evolving. The regulatory environment changes. We have innovations, technology, and such. I don't expect any regulation locally, internationally, to always capture the speed of the crypto technology. In fact, the EU Directive 5 or 6, I'm sure that the 7th directive will speak more, particularly and specifically to these digital assets. I'm sure that the FATF 40, I think they had 40 and then they had about 8 after September 11th. They seem to have about 50, 60 now, but I'm sure that they will have an extension on the travel rule, recommendation 16 of the FATF. And once again, regulation is key, and only there's where we'll have that investor confidence, not only in the FTXs, but this whole industry that is certainly budding in the future, as Mr. Cassius alluded to.
You are taking this into the direction where I certainly want to take this conversation, cashing just now, that the banks do not like the fact that there is so much freedom as it relates to crypto. So it is to their benefit for something like this to happen, to place a demand on regulation, because they don't like that amount of freedom. How much time can you give me, Cassius, before you really got to go?
I can give you 10. I can give you 10. I can give you 10.
All right.
I'm on daddy duty.
I
get plenty of children. I got to pick them up from school.
Oh, that's right. You got kids from school. And Tennille is leaving at what time?
10:15.
About 10:15. Okay. Let me play this one. I was supposed to take a break, but let me play this one clip before you all go, because this clip is going to suggest that it goes even deeper than even just the banks wanting to have this regulated. So I want you guys to weigh in on this, and then I'll take a break and let you go, and then we're going to have to, my audience and I are going to have to take it from there. But this is questioning, was this really fraud, or did this go even deeper than most people are looking at? Listen to this clip.
What do you make of the spectacular collapse of Sam Bankman-Fried's FTX? Well, okay, so big picture, the crypto market cap today is a fraction of what it was when we first started talking about it. So crypto's not, it was $3 trillion and now it's well under $1 billion. It's like 800 billion, of which a big part of that's stable coins, right? So you really move back into a world of Bitcoin and Ethereum as the two dominant cryptocurrencies, both of which actually happen to be CFTC regulated. Look, FTX is one of these absolute travesties in the history of financial markets. I mean, People will lose billions of dollars collectively. People are going to lose billions of dollars. And that undermines trust in all financial markets. But was the fundamental problem that it was a business built on cryptocurrency to begin with, or that it was a business that wasn't adequately regulated, or that it was a business that the venture capital and other investors who put money into FTX didn't adequately, diligence? What's the fundamental problem? Well, I think the fundamental issue... Or was issue, it just fraud? So first of all, that's a really big choice of words to use, and I can't go there at this point in time. What we do know is the balance sheet shows a giant black hole. And there's no doubt that customer assets were used to make investment decisions in favor of FTX's shareholders, which didn't work, at the expense of the customers. That's not permitted in American broker-dealers. You can't just use your customer assets to go engage in proprietary trading. That's a huge no-no.
It's a no-no in most parts of the world.
It's in most parts of the world, and that's a good no-no, to be clear, too. Now, with FTX, there are a few points here that we should talk about. The turf war by American regulators has got to end. It's just preposterous that, without naming the agencies, they all dance around who owns what, and the bottom line is American investors have really gotten hurt here, to the tune of hundreds of billions of dollars in decline in market cap in crypto over the last 2 years. I mean, that really strikes at the entire core or essence of what's investor protection all about. The second is that FTX crosses into a zone that all of us are worried about. You know, on the balance sheet of FTX is a line called Trump lose. And Sam was the second biggest donor to Democratic candidates.
I'm going to leave it to everybody else to draw their own conclusions about what you're saying here.
Right? Those are really, really ugly facts when you see a fraud of this magnitude having played out, and you find no regulators were there to prevent it.
This is an ongoing story, but get this. The FTX hacker who stole basically all the money that was left in the FTX accounts 3 days ago, the FTX hacker is now the 36th largest holder of Ethereum. The hacker became a mega whale after swapping millions of stablecoins for ETH. Thanks, Sam. Here is the exact data. A crypto address connected to the suspected drain of FTX accounts is swapping decentralized stablecoin DAI for Ethereum in a series of multi-million-dollar trades. So they started with around 21,000 Ethereum, and then through a series of trades, swapped 3 million DAI for this much ETH, and 5 million for this much, 10 million DAI, 10 million DAI, 10 million DAI, another 10 million DAI just loading up on Ethereum, becoming the 36th largest whale.
So, just for the record, SBF, Sam Bankman-Fried, is allegedly known to be a very good hacker. I'm just, stating the obvious. I ain't trying to say it was him who went backdoor or anything to the one to remove the crypto and now investing in it. But gentlemen, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean,
what we just saw.
I'll let
those conversations are out of the scope of what we're talking about. We don't have any knowledge of that. We do know that, the regulatory agency is one of the things the guy said is that it's a turf war fight between these banks and these regulators. If I'm about to send money from me to you, Michelle, I have to send money to an intermediary bank first before I send to you. And the intermediary bank gets their fee. And so everybody gets their fee along the lines. With this new digital space that erased all of them. And so that's hundreds of billions of dollars being wiped out from profits from these people. And they're not going to sit down and play dead and let you take their industry. And so if they can come in now like cannibals and try to position themselves in this space to be that intermediary or to be that regulator where you have to pay fees for moving, digital assets back and forth, they'll do that. But we all know where it's going. To see who moved the cryptocurrency, I don't know. We do know that the FBI has the capacity to be able to recover digital assets, because they just did it the other day where they recovered, millions of dollars worth of stolen Bitcoins. And so you just have to leave that up to the necessary law enforcement to do the investigation, and then we could make a determination from there.
For the record, I am not suggesting that he is the person. I'm just saying he's known to be a really good hacker.
But thank you so much, Michelle and Doctor. It was really good. Next time we have to do this again. I do have to run, but I really appreciate being on the show with you guys, and thank you so much.
I wish you could have stayed longer, but it is what it is, because it's going to get really explosive with what I still have to come. But
Doctor got you. My boy got you.
No, he got to leave early too. But anyway, thanks for being here while you could be. Thank you.
Yes. All right.
All right. So, Tennille, when we hear about these political ties, Democratic Party, Biden's name is being called, this clearly is so much bigger than just an exchange crashing, because now we're starting to see different layers of this onion just peeling away, peeling away. And it's a pity you got to leave early too, because I got some more stuff to reveal after we take a break. But what are you starting to see something in terms of a pattern here where we need to be looking deeper than everybody's looking? What are your thoughts?
For me, what I would say, I'll start with the head of the clip, and that investor protection is key. At the end of the day, I think that and Cassius made this point, that you have oligarchs in the traditional financial service that sort of have operate in the capacity of gatekeepers. They're mindful of the hundreds of billions of fees, as Cassius said. But I think what we need to see is not necessarily a race between the decentralized and financial space. What there needs to be is a relationship with these legacy players and incumbents, where we can actually move to a place where consumers are not only protected, but consumers are giving fair, cost effective, and transparent service. Now, for me, the things with Biden and Trump, at the onset, it may not look as good as many say. But, when we think about other entities in the traditional financial service, or even outside of the financial service altogether, we see that donations of similar magnitudes or even more are made. So I think.
But do they take customers' funds to make those donations?
That's not the case. That's not,
Okay.
and that's something that Cassius stated. And in the traditional financial services, even based on the Companies Act, commingling of customer funds is a no-no. Certainly, you should have an operational capital where you're going to run to do your business and what
Mhm.
have you. You're going to have then your customer fund maybe in a segregated account, based on, I don't know, AUM or anything like that. This is what is usual. But the custody thing is something that's very interesting in this, and I think I don't want to touch too much.
When you say
on-
the custody thing, what do you mean?
Okay, so there's a fundamental difference between CFI, right, or the centralized element of this industry,
Mhm.
where we see players like FTX, Kraken, Binance operate within. Then we have a DeFi space, or a decentralized space, where in fact, there's no um, individual that's responsible for the operation of the entity. In fact, this particular platform in the DeFi space, they are run by smart contracts. Now, a smart contract is just a fancy way of saying it's a code, a self-executing code that in fact automates a particular process. So for me, could the FTX been avoided? Maybe, if all of the investors were maybe using a DeFi platform. But once again, even though custody is different, in CeFi, you have custodial wallets. In DeFi, there's non-custodial wallets. So there's a phrase in cryptocurrency in this space that says, not your keys, not your coins. And what that means is that these assets, that's why I said I care a lot about the infrastructure, because these assets are not brand new. Bitcoin was not born in 2008. Interesting fun fact for the listeners: it was not the first decentralized cash system. In fact, Hash Cash was, and if I'm not mistaken, that came out in 1997. Both of which are based on the SHA-256 algorithm. This is just basically something similar to when we may put in sensitive financial information, maybe password, it's masked. These algorithms are nothing new. This space is certainly one around to stay, and I think regulation is key. I know the political arm inside of it is undesirable, but I'll close with this point. In speaking of regulation, what's very, very important that I see, the approach is taken across many other jurisdictions throughout the world. It's actually to consider implementing a regulatory sandbox. Now, what are these regulatory sandbox? Well, this regulatory sandbox allows these emerging companies and entities to, in fact, operate under the purview of this given regulator, where at that point in time, it's no need for you to be totally compliant or for you to be wholly regulated. In fact, it's a way for the regulator to assess the business processes of this particular entity, certainly the risk exposures that can arise for the entity as well as the investors. And for me, I think that is the most critical moving forward with this industry, to have a regulatory sandbox in place that we can monitor and really study these entities. And only there we'll get to a place where we have consumer confidence, where we're not seeing so many fallouts. But once again, the fallout is, like you said, much bigger than FTX. Many say it could be politics. Maybe many say it's a compliance thing. I feel it's a macroeconomic issue. I think weeks to come, we'll really take a deeper dive and we'll see more layers of the onion unravel, as you said, Michelle.
Well, I know you have to leave because you have another appointment. I'm going to address some more of those layers on the other side of this break. The question is, everybody now is going to be calling for regulation. And on the surface, that makes a lot of sense because you can't have people just losing all of this money in such a fashion without there being some form of regulation. But it raises an even deeper question, and that question is, was this collapse planned to the degree that it will force now a greater call for regulation? And if that is the case, which entity or entities will benefit most from a regulated industry? It's going to go deep, y'all. It's time to pull out the scuba diving gear. Snorkeling gear ain't going to work for this next segment of this show. Remember now, I said at the beginning of the show, I smell a rat. And the rat is not necessarily freed. Is he the rat, or was he performing on behalf of an even bigger rat? We can talk about it on the other side of the break. In the meanwhile, Tennille, thank you so much for being here. I have to have you back, and next time, make sure you clear your calendar so you can do the whole show, okay? Thank you so much for being here. We'll be back after these words from our sponsors. Don't you go anywhere because it's about to get deep.
Blood sugar levels play a key role in your appetite, weight gain, and overall health. When you have a blood sugar spike, you can feel confused, dizzy, and even have increased cravings. Eating carbohydrates, sugary or fatty foods, and not exercising can all cause blood sugar spikes. But now you have help in managing blood sugar levels. Sweeties by Youngevity was designed to help support healthy blood sugar levels so you can power through your day. It's a synergistic blend of minerals, herbs, and nutrients that have been proven to support healthy blood sugar levels. Sweeties includes chromium, an essential trace mineral that's known for its contribution to healthy blood sugar levels and improved metabolism of carbohydrates, fats, and proteins. Cinnamon bark has been included for its naturally occurring antioxidants and support of a healthy heart. And we've even added gymnema. It's been used in Ayurveda for centuries to help promote healthy blood sugar. All the ingredients in Sweeties work together to give the best support available for blood sugar control. Sweeties, the blood sugar support supplement from Youngevity that helps control cravings and manage blood sugar levels through your day. To learn more, contact your Youngevity associate.
Welcome to Sunshine Auto, the hardest place on the planet for a rims, paints, and tires.
We are your auto superstore for rims, Lexani, Azaras, Trueform, Western, Lux, Fuel, Tracklight, Tough, Rough Racing, Velocity, Mud, All-Terrain, and low-profile tires, cars, homes, and commercial window tinting. At Sunshine Auto, we put God first and customer is king.
Blasted love.
As you age, factors like health, weight, diet, and lifestyle can all impact your bones, joints, and general mobility. Even everyday exercise can lead to wear and tear on your body. Over time, you might start to experience stiffness or pain due to damaged joints or connective tissue. Ultimate Glucogel by Youngevity was created to help you limit the effects of wear on your joints. It delivers a daily dose of collagen-rich gelatin your body needs for joint elasticity and maintenance. Ultimate Glucogel contains a 1-to-1 ratio of gelatin and glucosamine sulfate, which is a key building block of your bone matrix, cartilage, ligaments, tendons, and connective tissue. Gelatin's unique blend of amino acids not only help with muscle and joint health, but also has been shown to provide additional benefits for the brain, skin, and hair. Ultimate Glucogel. Natural, optimal daily support for joint health. To learn more, contact your Youngevity associate.
We are back. Welcome back to GPS, Global Paradigm Shift on Global 99.5 FM. Michelle Malcolm in your company on this Thursday as we take a deeper look at this whole FTX fallout saga that continues to give and give and give and give and give some more. The telephone numbers to call 3260271, 3260271, 3260272. 3260272, the WhatsApp line to send us a text message only, 8010271, 8010271. Now, I am no crypto expert, but I have done my research and I have come across quite a bit of information that really raises the question as to whether or not this whole thing was planned to push us all towards faster regulation. Now, keep in mind that one of the things that made crypto attractive to so many was the fact that it was not regulated to the degree that anybody could go and trade and become wealthy without so many controls being placed on them by central banks in their particular countries. Because we know that the central bank, whether it's in the Bahamas or any other country, it's all about maintaining control of the economic sector of that particular country. And what crypto did was it decentralized all of that. It took away the control from the central banks and put it into the hands of the person trading. Now, clearly, this situation with FTX shows that there's got to be some degree of regulation somehow. But that goes against exactly what crypto was supposed to be about. The question we need to be asking ourselves is, in the face of this, when you consider all that we've learned so far in this show, 10% of the world's GDP was filtered into this company that just, blew up overnight. 10%, I want you to consider that, of the world's GDP was filtered through this company. Also considering that FTX was a part of the World Economic Forum. That is key here because it raises the question of, was this planned? Was this collapse planned as a means towards an end? I want you to listen to this.
Prove to me that what happened with Sam and FTX official was just a mistake, all right, just a freak accident. $10 trillion under management across these funds, and every single one of them had investments in FTX. All right, every single one of them. We heard about Sequoia Capital that put $250 million in the FTX, and they marked it zero on their balance sheet and said, that's just a small portion of our fund. Let's take a look at some of these funds here. You have BlackRock, which has $8.5 trillion under management. I can't pronounce all these. Temasek Holdings, nearly $500 billion. SoftBank, $154 billion. Thoma Bravo, $122 billion. Sequoia Capital, $85. Look at all these. This amounts to around $10 trillion. And if we look at the world GDP, $96 trillion. So you're telling me 10% of the world's GDP under management, just throwing money at FTX and it was a freak accident? Why do I think it's all interconnected? First of all, FTX is part of the World Economic Forum.
FTX is misappropriating user funds. They were taking user funds to do other things. And I think the trigger was like a week ago, there was a CoinDesk article. And then my team says, we still have a lot of FTT coins. Like, what? Should we sell it? Sure, why not? So the next day, there was a big transaction reported by Where Alerts saying that like $580 million worth of FTT was transferred to Binance.com. And my team's like, CZ, this is our transfer. It's like, well, really, you sure? Like, yeah, he's sure. And should we be transparent about it? It's like, yeah, sure, we should be transparent about it. So I just wrote a tweet in a few minutes. But I wanted to explain, like, how do we have this much, right? So we can't just have $580 million worth of FTT all of a sudden. We didn't buy it from secondary markets. We got it as a transaction of our equity exit out of FTX a year and a half ago, which was publicly reported. So I said that, and then I didn't know my phone will blow up like over the rest of the evening. So, and I also didn't know, like, the second day I said, look, I didn't know that was, I think the word we used was the straw that broke the camel's back. And that's before Sam SBF called me 24 hours later. I thought it was just causing a lot of waves in the Twitter, in the community. 24 hours later, Sam calls me and says, hey, CZ, can we talk? Okay. I thought he was going to do an OTC deal, right? I thought he was going to ask, hey, CZ, why don't we do an OTC deal? Then we can put all the negative comments out, then confidence is restored. I thought he wanted to do that. But instead, he just said, look, we have much bigger troubles. I said, look, we don't want users to be hurt, and we want to protect the users. So the deal, to be honest, I can't comment on any specifics on the deals, but from our perspective, the deal did not make sense from a number of fronts. From a financial perspective, is a big hole. From new users, FTX, we have very high overlap. We cover all the regions they cover. And they have much less users than us. From a technology or product perspective, I think we have a superior product. They don't have anything that we don't have. Our original intention was to let's save the users. But then the news of misappropriating user funds and especially US regulatory agencies' investigations, we're like, okay, we can't touch that anymore. As soon as I understood we couldn't touch it anymore, I said, let's make that announcement as quickly as possible because we don't want to do a slow no. If we're going to do a no, we do a quick no. That's one of my principles in business. So then this way we don't drag on for a long time, and then we also remove any uncertainty or doubt in the community because, as you can see, when the deal was going on, the deal was happening, crypto was dropping. Uncertainty is actually worse than negative news. So when the news is out, everybody knew, okay, this is where we are. So we said, look, let's announce it as quickly as possible. So we announced it. And then after we announced it, I've been trying to keep quiet to the extent possible. So I didn't appear on any TV interviews, etc. But another very big player going down. A few months ago, there was Luna, 3 Arrows. Luna was big. 3 Arrows was smaller. And then with Celsius, Voyager, they're even smaller. But then FTX is big. So with such a big player going down, I think we're seeing $30-40 billion of value that's in FTX valuation that was before that they raised that, plus quite a few $1 billion of user funds that's kind of gone. So with this type of events happening, it's devastating for the industry. A lot of consumer confidence is shaken, and I think basically we've been set back a few years. Now regulators rightfully will scrutinize this industry much harder, which is probably a good thing, to be honest. I think regulators are definitely needed. I don't think our society is advanced enough to live in a world without rules. So once we have rules, then that's what regulations are. Somebody have to make some rules. So, but doesn't mean all the rules are good. It doesn't mean all the rules are bad. The rules need to be sensible. If the rule says, hey, we're just going to ban crypto altogether in Indonesia, that's one type of rule. I think that's obviously going to be bad. If it's anything goes, that's also not so good in general. There will be a lot of scammers, a lot of guys doing business in a bad way and cause a lot of damage. So we need to find the balance. So it's not an easy task. So that's on the regulation side. And then on the crypto side, with people holding their own assets, be their own bank, I think eventually the technology will get there. But today, it's not easy. Today, technically, you can. The technology is there, but it's just not easy to use. It's not easy for an average person to say, hey, I'm going to save my private keys, have multiple copies of backups. So if I lose my computer, if I lose my hard wallet, I can restore it. And worst case is, but we all die. So if I'm no longer around, how does my kids inherit it? With the tools today, we can do it, but it's just not very easy. 99% of people don't know how to do it. 99% of people probably do not even know how to securely encrypt a USB backup. We need to make the tools easier. As the tools become easier to use while being very secure, more and more people will shift to that. But today, if you look at the real situation today, the majority of people would be much more comfortable using an email, password, and call customer support if they forget it. And we also have many cases where a person passed away. The next of kin comes with a death certificate. We validate it, wait for a month, just make sure that the guy doesn't come back alive. And then we give the funds to that kin. So today, the majority of people, for the majority of what we call regular, normal people, a centralized exchange is easier to use, even though they have to go through KYC, AML, which is actually quite cumbersome. So we need to transition the industry. The industry improves in incremental steps, not giant leaps forward.
Okay, so the person speaking in that clip was, you've heard about Binance, which was supposed to be the bailout, and then they changed their mind, and you would have heard referred to CZ, who heads Binance. That was CZ in that particular clip, talking about why they decided not to bail out FTX after realizing that there were some irregularities happening that they did not want to be a part of. Now, I have a feeling the clip that I stopped earlier, I think I may not have played that, I think I will end the show with that, just in case I did not play it, because it is key to this whole question of whether or not this was just an act of bad playing on behalf of SBF, Sam Bankman-Fried, or was there something more? I don't know if I should say sinister, but is there something deeper behind all of this? Because what you will now continue to hear, as you would have heard from the CEO of Citadel in the earlier clip, as you would have just heard from CZ, as you are about to hear from another very well-known investor who is known to all of us because of the show Shark Tank. Everybody now is crying out for regulation, 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 regulation. And again, it's not to say that regulation is necessarily a bad thing. I just think that we need to constantly be asking the question, and understanding beyond what is on the surface as to who could possibly, or is it possible that there could have been some orchestration going on behind the scenes to push us to this point where regulation for something that was designed to not be regulated to a certain degree is going to happen? And if so, who would be the persons pulling those strings? I don't think it's any accident that it's been revealed that Fried had some very, very high political ties. I think that is just a chip of the iceberg, the tip of the iceberg, as it relates to what is really behind all of this, possibly. Because, I could sit around and other persons in these clips could talk about theory as much as we want, and even lay out, what they believe to be evidence of the theory. But my role here today is just to get you to question, to think beyond what is being presented to us. That's my role here today. Just to encourage you to look beyond the surface and question, is there something else really happening here? But not surprisingly, everybody now is calling for stiffer regulation. we would have heard the Prime Minister address the House of Assembly earlier this week, talking about this whole FTX situation and giving his view on how this will impact the Bahamas' reputation. Meanwhile, we see lawsuits flying around that are going to definitely have a negative impact on the Bahamas' reputation as it relates to this whole fiasco. But here's Kevin O'Leary in this clip, adding to the chorus of persons calling for better legislation in the crypto space. I want to play this clip. I want you to listen to this. We will probably have time for one more break, and then I'm going to play that video that I'm not sure that I played it earlier. If I did, I think it bears repeating because it goes to the core of the question: was this planned? Was this far bigger than just what appears to be on the surface? So here now is another clip with well-known investor Kevin O'Leary adding to the growing chorus calling for this legislation.
Another day, more lies, and more drama for Sam Bankman-Fried and FTX. Just one day after posting a 22-thread tweet storm that included multiple I'm sorries, an emphasis on how now the main focus is transparency and doing right by the consumer, and most importantly, stating that FTX.US was liquid and not a concern. SBF did the complete opposite of everything he said in the tweets. He resigned from FTX and filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy with just about all the entities under his so-called crypto empire being included. After stating that all products are fully operational, BlockFi has now paused clients' ability to withdraw funds, citing lack of clarity around FTX's current situation. It also told clients not to deposit their wallet or interest accounts. After this epic collapse, regulation for crypto is now at the forefront of any crypto conversation. In a brief interview with CNBC, famed venture capitalist Kevin O'Leary, who was a staunch supporter and shareholder of FTX, gave his sobering take on the situation. O'Leary is clearly disappointed at what has transpired, but sees the silver lining. Kevin believes this will force regulation to move faster because institutional money will pull out of the crypto space until regulation is in place.
I'm still a huge advocate for the potential of blockchain and cryptocurrencies. I'm disappointed, like many other shareholders. It sets, in a way though, I always try and find what is the outcome of something like this. I mean, yes, I'm a shareholder in the International. That's a zero. It's not the first time I've made a bad investment, probably not the last time, but luckily I make more good ones than bad ones, and I learn from my mistakes. What's going to happen now is there won't be another situation like this for institutional investors ever again. We're simply not going to put capital to work until this stuff gets regulated. And what is occurring, and I'm just one voice in it, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to fly to Washington, and I want regulation. I want it now. No more delaying. I think this puts tremendous pressure on the SEC. I think a bill like the Stablecoin Transparency Act, which has been floating around forever, not going to signature, not going to markup, we got to stop doing this to ourselves. As an industry, it has to stop, but also it's time to move forward with regulation. And if this is the bottom of the crypto market. A massive player goes to zero, and now you build from the ashes. That's the upside. I am still going to invest in crypto. I lost money in the accounts there. They have a gate on them now. It doesn't stop me from buying more, and I'm going to do just that. I'm going to take advantage of the fact that most of these currencies and tokens and coins have absolutely been beaten into the ground as a result of this, and probably a buying opportunity. That's the way I look at it. I'd like to start with one thing. I don't think we can solve for every single asset in crypto. I want to do one thing, and that one thing is to pass the Stablecoin Transparency Act. One thing. Because that allows us to use the US dollar as a payment system. I would use that in all of my businesses every day. It's far superior to ACH, far superior to SWIFT, far faster, more transparent, 100% audible. All I need is the regulation that forces an audit every 30 days and guarantees me the backup for this is Treasury bills less than 12 months of duration. That's one thing. Very simple. That would signal to everybody around the world that the regulators here in the United States are taking crypto on, starting to put rules in place, putting the guardrails on. No one is going to play ball anymore in this space on an institutional level with serious capital till we get it done. I mean, look, I'm going to agree. It was a terrible investment, 100%, and I lost my money. I get it. I'm a diversified investor. I make mistakes. This is one of them. But I learn from my mistakes. This won't be happening again. If I'm going to put serious capital to work in a broker-dealer, in an exchange, it's going to be one that's regulated, that has transparency, and has the same rules of test that every other exchange that deals in stocks and bonds has. Because, everybody's saying the same thing. It's great to be a retail investor and trade a few $1,000s worth of crypto. And if that's what Binance is going to do, good for them. But every single institutional investor is going to look at this and say, okay, can't play with this structure anymore because there's not enough transparency. I'm going to wait for the SEC or whoever it is going to be, the Fed or whoever, to regulate this stuff. This is actually a turning point for this industry. It's a maturation for this industry. That's what's going to happen.
I hope you all were listening carefully to what Mr. O'Leary had to say. Nobody is going to play this game anymore, he said, until this happens. Y'all heard that, right? No investor is going to play this game anymore until this happens. I'm going to go to Washington and make sure this happens. Yeah, I hope you all were listening carefully to the language that was used by Kevin O'Leary. I am going to take a quick break. Final break of the show. Don't go anywhere, because I'm going to play that clip that will answer the question that I've been asking throughout this show. And if I played it already, I'm not sure that I did or not, because there was a lot of clips. I'm not thinking I did, but it bears repeating if I did. If this was, in fact, not just something that meets the eye, something that, what it appears to be on the surface, if this was, in fact, something that was orchestrated for the sole purpose of pushing towards regulation, apart from the typical investor who has lost so much money, who will obviously be joining that chorus, who would benefit most? Who could possibly be pulling the strings if this, in fact, was a planned event and not just something that happened? Don't you go anywhere. This next clip, you got to see. We'll be back after these words from our sponsors. You are watching or listening to GPS on Global 99.5 FM.
Your body's immune system is under constant pressure from things like stress, lack of exercise, and toxins in the environment. It's crucial to be proactive and support your immune system with the nutrients it needs to function effectively. But it's often hard to get these nutrients from food alone. Introducing fast-acting Zinc Plus Immune Support by Longevity. Unlike zinc-only supplements, Zinc Plus Immune Support builds on the proven power of zinc and adds complementary nutrients to give your immune system extra support. Vitamin D helps balance the effects of zinc, while our proprietary blend of natural fruit and root extracts provides the extra help your immune system needs to work against daily stressors. And we've included Longevity's exclusive plant-derived minerals to give your body the minerals it needs, but can't get from food alone. And because Zinc Plus Immune Support is delivered in a great-tasting, sugar-free, berry-flavored lozenge, it encourages quicker absorption of all these nutrients into your body. Zinc Plus Immune Support. Zinc plus the extra support your body needs to promote a healthy immune system. To learn more, contact your Longevity associate.
Welcome to Sunshine Auto, the hardest place on the planet for rims, tints, and tires.
We are your auto superstore for rims, Lexani, Azaras, Trueform, Western, Lux, Fuel, Tracklight, Tough, Rough Racing, Velocity, Mud, All-Terrain, and low-profile tires. Cars, homes, and commercial window tinting. At Sunshine Auto, we put God first and customer is king.
Glasses love.
It's gotten harder and harder to get your daily requirement of vital nutrients from food alone. Without additional vitamin and nutrient support, your health and well-being can suffer drastically. That's why Z-Radical was specifically formulated. It combines a blend of antioxidant-rich vitamins, minerals, and botanicals with the protective powers of fucoidan to help fill the gaps from lack of nutrients in your foods. The core of Z-Radical is fucoidan, a naturally occurring polysaccharide that helps stimulate immune reaction, protecting you against inflammation and oxidative stress. We harvest this powerful mineral-rich nutrient from brown seaweed, harvested only from the world's most pristine ocean waters to ensure the purest quality. It's then extracted using cold process technology to ensure maximum levels of bioavailability. Then we add essential vitamins that help to protect your cardiovascular and nervous systems and are crucial for optimal immune and neurological function. Z-Radical also includes a proprietary blend of delicious antioxidant-rich fruits and berries. This great-tasting combination helps your body combat free radical imbalances that can contribute to a variety of degenerative conditions like arthritis and heart disease. Z-Radical. Experience the power of fucoidan with antioxidant-rich berries, 8 essential vitamins, and more to provide you with potent health benefits. To learn more, contact your longevity associate.
Welcome back to GPS Global Paradigm Shift on Global 99.5 FM. Michelle Malcolm in your company. On this Thursday, we're talking about the FTX fallout, the FTX saga, the saga that continues to develop day after day. Every time you turn around, there's a new development that makes you wonder what's really going on here. Well, that's the question that I sought to encourage you to think of today, because it just seems so strange, some of the happenings that went down with this particular company and the young man in question. And is that a caller for the show? Caller, make it quick. Welcome to GPS.
Yeah, good afternoon, Lady Malcolm.
Hi.
You know, I made some decisions for myself that anything with place come out new, I can sit back and watch it go for it. That's with respect to anything. But now I listened to your clip just now, and I think this is a good time for Bahamians to go. You think cryptocurrency might be worth $2 now? It's a good time to buy.
All right. Thank you so much for calling. And there are a lot of people who have that attitude that when something seems to be, happening as it is now, this is a good time to buy. But I want you to listen to this last clip. It's going to ask some serious questions about whether or not there is something else happening here that made it necessary for FTX to crash in such resounding fashion. Listen to this clip finally.
Prove to me that what happened with Sam, an FTX official, was just a mistake, all right, just a freak accident. $10 trillion under management across these funds, and every single one of them had investments in FTX. All right, every single one of them. We heard about Sequoia Capital that put $250 million in the FTX, and they marked it 0 on their balance sheet and said, that's just a small portion of our fund. Let's take a look at some of these funds here. You have BlackRock, which has $8.5 trillion under management. I can't pronounce all these. Temasek Holdings, nearly $500 billion. SoftBank, $154 billion. Thoma Bravo, $122 billion. Sequoia Capital, $85. Look at all these. This amounts to around $10 trillion. And if we look at the world GDP, $96 trillion. So you're telling me 10% of the world's GDP under management, just throwing money at FTX, and it was a freak accident? Why do I think it's all interconnected? First of all, FTX is part of the World Economic Forum. Okay, as you can see, you can go to the website, look up FTX. They are a partner of the World Economic Forum. This is the powers that be that run this world. All right, money and power. BlackRock, the world's largest asset manager, is solidly behind the stakeholder model. What is the stakeholder model? Well, if we go back up here, they like a concept called stakeholder capitalism. Okay. Stakeholder capitalism requires not only corporate response to pandemics, ecological issues such as climate change, but also rethinking corporations' commitments to already vulnerable communities within their ecosystem. So you need to do some more research on what stakeholder capitalism is. But if you want an example of a country that's implemented it, China. But the World Economic Forum, Charles Schwab, all these people that are in power want to implement this model across the entire world. Schwab and Malloret pit stakeholder capitalism against neoliberalism, defining the latter as a corpus of ideas and policy favoring competition over solidarity, creative destruction over government intervention, and economic growth over social welfare. Okay, and you'll see how this ties into crypto here and why I think this was all planned. The goal behind the Great Reset is to get rid of this freedom, this neoliberalism, right, and to implement more oversight. The stakeholder capitalism, okay, a top-down thing where the government can get involved. And we've already seen the government prancing and pouncing on this opportunity to regulate cryptocurrencies when they've been dragging their feet for years on it. So you've got this much money that is being traded on the markets, unregulated crypto, right? It's anonymous, it's blockchain, it's a superior technology, and it's one of the. You hear the slogans and all the terms. Crypto is, freedom. Crypto is where everything needs to go towards. Crypto is the key to society, right? They don't like that. They like control, okay? And what better way to do that than take the top 2 exchange in the world and crush it from the inside out? The tendency of the Great Reset is toward monopolization, vesting as much control over production and distribution and as few favored corporations as possible, while eliminating industries and producers deemed non-essential or inimical. To bring this reset about, Schwab writes, every country from the United States to China must participate in every industry from oil and gas to tech. All right, tech would be a crypto industry, must be transformed. And what we have seen, right, is you had was it $500 billion flow into the Binance exchange since this whole FTX thing. CZ comes out to be the hero and all that. It's sad that we have to question all this and the legitimacy. But, whether they intended to or not, Binance has got a monopoly on the industry now. Obviously, there's Coinbase, you got Crypto.com and other exchanges, KuCoin, that are trying to show their balance sheets now. But you're finding out that their balance sheets aren't very comforting. A member of the U.S. House Subcommittee overseeing U.S. capital markets says he's been getting reports of some potentially shady dealings between the SEC, FTX, SBF before all this went down. Okay, so what we see here is collaboration. Like I said, this guy stood before Congress, and if you know anything, money, government, everything is in connection. They're hand in hand. April 25, 2019, Biden announces his presidential campaign. 13 days later, Sam Bankman-Fried, I called him Friedman earlier, son of Barbara Fried, co-founder of political fundraising organizations, launches FTX crypto exchange. The exchange is an overnight success. SBF becomes biggest donor to Biden. I think he ends up being second biggest donor next to George Soros. This was not some freak accident. I think people are mostly victims in this case. And I think this is a part of the plan for the Great Reset. Crypto is the Wild West. They need to get the reins and control back over all this. They're gonna hammer down on regulation. They don't want people to have the freedom that they do. Now, obviously, freedom comes with pros and cons. All right, and some regulation is good. But understanding the wealthy and their desire for control and power, it would not surprise me. I can't say anything dogmatically, but it would not surprise me. And that's sad we can say that now, that all of this was planned from the get-go. Sam was a plant, and they intended for all this to happen in the long run anyway.
All right. I'm going to leave you with that. Just a thought. Could it be that it's the big players of the world who will benefit most from the direction that this now forces us to go in? Just a thought. Just something for you to think about. All right, that's my time, y'all. I'm going to let y'all marinate on that one. I'm not going to give my opinion one way or the other. I just thought it was important to bring the information to you just so you could think about it. Until tomorrow. Tomorrow is Friday, TGIF Open Line Show, where we're going to talk about the week that was. Tomorrow we'll get into what the Prime Minister had to say in the House of Assembly as it relates to the Bahamas regulation of this whole thing, as well as other stories that made headlines this week. Until then, I'm Michelle Malcolm. Keep thinking, y'all. Thanks so much for joining us. Have a good afternoon.
Global 99.5 FM reminds our listeners that the views and opinions expressed on this show are those of the host and guests and not necessarily the opinions of the owners of Global Communications Network and the operators of this radio station.
This is 99.5 Global FM, your number